Hi, it's the Reverend Dr. Nadine Rosechild-Sullivan coming to you to read from my book, I Trusted You, Fully and Honestly Speaking of Gendered Assault. There is a trigger warning on all of the materials from this book since it does deal with sexual assault and domestic violence. It is a combination of sociology, sociological fact, and memoirs and narratives and poems that highlight the emotional reality of these experiences. I am reading a memoir and I am reading a poem today. The memoir is called Streetwalking and begins on page 154. Streetwalking. From the time we were 11, Rita and I walked the street. We walked out of desperation. We walked out of boredom. We walked to the five and dime. Young as we were, we should have been safe. Young as we were, we had no idea there was anyone in our world to hurt us. There was nothing else to do other than watch a little television or dance to the Motown playing on local pop radio. And much as we loved those two pastimes, they got old. Oh, and we also told each other stories. We made up adventures in which we were female private eyes or secret agents hunting down criminals and jet-setting around the globe. So we walked the street every possible Saturday or summer afternoon. After our morning house cleaning chores were done to our mother's satisfactions, we begged change from our mother's aprons and walked the mile to the W.T. Grant on York Road to share a plate of French fries. It was exciting stuff, sharing French fries. Maybe some of the high school boys lingering over by women's lingerie would notice us, or maybe we would troll the aisles for paperbacks or record albums. Sometimes I longed and looked for a particular fountain pen or unique paper notepad, though generally, unless we'd had a great haul babysitting, there was little actual shopping we could do, and we had to content ourselves with the fries. As we got a little older, we finagled ways to get just enough cash to split a pack of cigarettes. I took to stealthily lifting nickels from my father's dresser. He always noticed, but was never sure who to blame. And we would spend even more time on the street so we could enjoy our illegal and parentally unapproved activity. And sometimes we had somewhere to go, like our weekly guitar lessons, or a trip to the store for cans of the liquid diet drink Metrical for my mother, or an extra pound of provolone for Rita's. Once, for the freedom of the time out of the house, we walked about 40 minutes from Rita's house in Warminster to my then boyfriend Jay's house in Hatboro, a total of about 3 miles. But when we got there, he exclaimed, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And I broke up with him on the spot, which made the walk home much less exciting, if more animated and rapid, than the walk there. But street walking was not safe, not even in our sheltered and upwardly mobile suburb. We didn't know it when we first undertook the activity, but we were developing. Uninvited. Our breasts were growing. One day they just got sore, and then they got achy, and then the nipples got painfully tender, and then our shirts were full, and we needed bras and didn't know how to get them till the day my father walked me into that same W.T. Grant's, right past the 8th and 9th grade boys who hung by women's lingerie and up to an open bin of brassieres, only to hold one up in front of me and ask, "Do you think this is the right size?" Mercifully, I was saved by a perceptive, if frumpy and middle-aged saleswoman who swooped in and spirited me away to a private dressing room, away from the tittering teenage boys, where she stripped me down and fitted me, still unbearable. Finally, she told my father, "Buy her this one," and sent us on our way. Little by little, we were turning, physically, from girls into women, but our minds were not racing ahead. Like our bodies, they were experiencing consistent, gradual change. Yet, suddenly, men were everywhere, as if coming out of the proverbial woodwork. They began at every turn to treat us as though our bodies were fully adult, though in actuality our bodies were quite new to us, and we were quite new to our bodies. But like a calendar page had flipped, the sexual harassment began. It began while walking to W.T. Grant's. It began with the horns honking. Initially, we were safe as I headed from my house on Henry to her house on Gibson, or as we made our way from her house on Gibson up Cypress to York Road, but demonstrably, we were no longer safe walking on York Road. Suddenly, it seemed that car after passing car blew its horn or called out words that blew away on the wind generated by the vehicle's forward motion. At first, we didn't know what to make of it. But then one day, as we strode along York Road, one of the cars blowing its horn turned sharply into a driveway in front of us, cutting off our path, and its driver began to get out, entreating us to get in. We ran around his roadblock and he backed out and sped off, but our sense of safety was shaken. As it was for me again another day on Cypress Road. I was walking alone that day when a driver, busily craning his neck to watch my derriere, drove up onto a neighbor's front yard, rutting the grass and barely missing the mailbox. And then I moved to the city, where walking past a construction site brought a cacophony of voices hollering obscenities, or men slowed their cars on Broad Street just enough for me to hear their shouted enticement, "Hey baby, wanna fuck?" To which I always wanted, but never got the chance to respond. "Want to know my name first?" And years later, there was the effect of pregnancy and lactation, during which even walking the inside of a store or restaurant became running the gauntlet of the male gaze. Or the friends' husbands who would hold conversation with me while talking to my chest and not my eyes, a situation I always longed to address by saying, "Those aren't my eyes, I'm up here." In general, I refrained. I was trained to social decorum. I was concerned for my already mortified friends. And then there were the men in the workplace, the ones who chased me around the desk, the ones with the power to promote or to fire me, the ones who made me quit. Inside or out, street walking was not safe in this female body. And too many older men couldn't tell a teen from a 20 or didn't care to try. Maybe they never knew how old and consequently grossly unattractive they looked to me. I'm turning to the poem, The Only Present, which is begins on page 123. And let me preface this poem by saying, I know it's not all men. The poem is written from the perspective of the place where it has felt like all men, because it has been so many men. But I know, not all men. The poem doesn't know that. The only present. It was the only present I got for my 21st year. You said I was a woman of the world. You thought I could handle it. Crossing every cultural taboo, you incested me. It was your right in your own polluted mind. But you wore more than one face. At 21, you were my godfather, great-granduncle, blood. At 12, you were my best friend's uncle. At 17, my friend's former boyfriend released to me with her blessing. At 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, you were the boys who asked me for dates, the aging married men hitting on jailbait, the face that made my pulse race across a crowded room, and the slime that made my skin crawl when you sleazed up next to me. You were all men, one man at a time, and all men in one, godfather, uncle, brother, stranger, friend. Above all, you were consistent. From the catcalls on the road, to the pickup lines in bars, to the chase around the office desk, to the wrestling in the cars, to the husband with violent fantasies beneath the sheets, you let me know that I was good for one thing and one thing alone. You were the same perpetrator, lurking behind every different face, never looking to love, never giving respect, only looking to take that which might have been won if you'd ever bothered with the heart.